Hey guys and girls, it's Nathan Birch here from the B.Invested headquarters, and today I'm just catching up to talk about the biggest changes that I've seen in property over the course of the last decade. You know, lots of things have changed in the marketplace, but lots of things are still the same out there. If we go down to fundamentals, the biggest things that I've seen change is that the prices have gone up quite a bit, which is good. I remember people used to laugh at me and say I was a dickhead or whatever because I was buying shitbox houses and they weren't nice and they weren't pretty and all that sort of stuff. I couldn't really give a fuck now because I did what I believed worked, and it did. And I had a plan and I had a vision to get there. Apart from the prices increasing, what other things have I seen change? I've seen interest rates go down. That's an interesting thing in itself. People are scared that interest rates will go up. I want to debunk a myth there, and I want to challenge you on maybe some of the other videos that have been sounding a little bit funny on, talking about interest rates, the system and monetary policy, etc. You know, a lot of people focus too much on the small shit, being the property, and not enough at the bigger picture of how that property fits in as a part of the jigsaw puzzle of your financial freedom. If you go back to 1970s when President Nixon changed the gold standard and made US dollars a base currency, you will see that that's where more frequent recessions of 10 years of a recession happening have occurred. A lot of people say, well, interest rates back in the 1980s were 20%. I'm scared it's going to go back there. Well, we're not in the 1980s. That's 30 years ago. Right? Well, every time there's been a recession since that time, the interest rates have gone down and then they come up a little bit, and then there's another issue and they go down, and then they come up a little bit and they go down and they come up a little bit. Interest rates have generally dropped each time a recession has happened by about 4 to 5% and stayed there. So when I say that I am very confident that we're going to see the death of the dollar, which is a very good thing, and we're going to see interest rates go down to 0% or negative interest rate, and we're going to see a hyperinflation, is fantastic for property investors. Looking at the interest rate side of things, I've seen, you know, a cycle where it shaved off a bit of it went back up a little bit, shaved that off, and now we're down at a new all-time low. And interest rates will continue to do that until we're just throwing out money to people saying, please take the money and go buy something, and the money will become worthless and our assets will go up, like houses and all other tangible hard items that we can buy. So interest rates have gone down. I've seen rents go up in some areas, I've seen rents go down. When I first started buying property, there was a big sentiment in the early 2000s that, you know, buying property in the state was risky. There was a lot of shitheads out there in the 90s that would fly people to interstate, sell them a property that's cheaper but selling it overvalued. You never had realestate.com or the internet or RP data or domain to do any comparison. The internet has gotten rid of a lot of those dodgy spruikers that were out there that were selling overinflated things. However, there is a new emergence of that I have seen happen a couple of times. Spruikers in the late noughties that we would see. It sounds really weird saying that because I still think 10 years ago it was in the 90s. You would see all these nice glossy brochures and shit that are selling high promises of yields and whatever in mining towns and regional areas. Because the market got so hot, everyone became a fucking expert there, and that's what happened then. Then they all disappeared and they got into trouble or whatever, and now we're starting to see a new load of those people coming up, everyone talking about being an expert and whatever. I've seen phases of those things happening. I've seen a lot of people get hurt at certain times. A lot of people don't remember Sydney property market. A lot of people think, you know, the last 7 years the market's doubled, gone up for the last 13 years or 12 years or whatever. It hasn't gone up for 10 years, right? The market in 2003 to 2008 did nothing. It did nothing. It went sideways and slightly downwards. There was no construction, there was no cranes in the sky, etc., etc. And that's why there's been a big pent-up of demand, and I don't even believe that we've even caught up to where we should be on that building front. So that's why I'm very confident still in those property markets. But I have seen very interesting things that I will carry, obviously for the rest of my life, into how I make decisions, how I analyse markets, and, you know, what's put grey hair in my head instead of a face full of pimples, and that's learning and overcoming those hurdles. Other things that I've learned, when I first started investing, I used to do a lot of renos. I had a different mindset than what I have now. I have a smarter mindset. Back in the old days, I had a harder working mindset. You know, I thought you have to buy a shitty house and you have to do a reno on it etc., etc. Whereas nowadays I realise that that ain't necessarily the case when the block doesn't make money from doing their renos, when those other TV shows, which I can't even remember the names of, collapsed because they don't make money on their renos. It's important to see that the strategies over the years have changed. A lot of people might want to reproduce, go out to Western Sydney and buy a property for 200 grand or 150 grand. It's not going to happen. You need to find the opportunity in today's market. You need to find the opportunity in tomorrow's market. You need to work out what your strategy is to be able to fit that acquisition into your portfolio and what's going to help you get to the next level. What other things have I seen? I think we'll see a lot of changes in technology over the next few years when it comes to property, how transactions are done, how people conduct their transactions with technology out there in the marketplace, which is going to be really exciting and groundbreaking. And I'll go into a couple of other things. I think people's attitudes towards buying property has changed. I believe that people's mindset, I think that property is considered as a must-have nowadays. It's not a birthright that you deserve to buy a property. I remember as a kid watching Seinfeld, they got very excited because they got a lease on a property. Oh wow, I could rent this little one-bedroom unit for $500 a week or whatever the case might be. They never fucking sat there and go, oh, I deserve to buy a house with four bedrooms, 2 garage, 3 living areas, 4 bathrooms for me and my wife, you know. That wasn't an expectation, right? So I don't know where that expectation came from, the entitlement sort of mentality. That is something that I have seen profusely, especially in the media beating up and all that sort of stuff, which is pretty shitty. But I will tell you one thing that I have seen that has not changed. Right? One thing that has not changed one fucking bit. When I first started buying properties, when I bought my first place in Western Sydney, when properties were 150, 200 grand in Western Sydney, to now that they're $500,000 in Western Sydney or 600,000 in Western Sydney. The one thing that hasn't changed is that people complained at the time it was stupid to buy in the market. People said it was too hard to buy in the market, and I had the same fucking whingers back in the marketplace as what I would hear today. Everything you're seeing today, I've got a very, very, very good memory. Everything we're seeing today in the marketplace with people's attitude and perception, it was identical. People were complaining about the prices being too high at 150 to 200,000. People saying the market was going to crash and they were going to lose money. People were fearful of stuff. People weren't taking action. And I'm sure that those people, if I caught up from 10 years ago, will still be probably saying the same fucking shit. So I'll leave it over to you guys to work out what you want to do on your journey. If you need any help, you can call us on the B.Invested hotline at 1300 367 925 or email us at admin@binvested.com.au. Have an awesome day.